everyone, so this is my first review on the TNT series Will, and essentially what this series is about is that in a very chaotic time where Catholics are hunted down by the masses, a young William Shakespeare arrives in London with all the dreams in the world of becoming a famous playwright, as well as a very treacherous letter that could cause his death. And I was very pleasantly surprised and really enjoyed this first episode in the series, where it was very surprising with how they decided to do the William Shakespeare story. Because what I felt based on the trailers and what they were kind of showing with it is that they would take this story on a very fanciful route, much like Shakespeare in Love did, where it kind of told some truth, but it was still very, very fictionalized of what actually happened with William Shakespeare. But in this series, it seems like they're doing a lot more at trying to be very accurate with the William Shakespeare story. And yes, there are some sort of fictional parts thrown in there with some extra people that probably weren't actually there, and sort of making up some names of his friends and stuff like that. So there are fictional things, but they're still making the story seem pretty accurate to what actually happened to William Shakespeare. And I really kind of enjoy that. And I really enjoyed how they decided to show London in this episode, where it's very overcrowded and you can't really trust anyone. That was a very interesting sort of take that I really like that they did. And then I really, really love that they didn't just make Will a major, major success right away. His first play was all the rage and all the stuff, that they do seem to have this structure that they're building around him, where as the episodes progress, he'll become a better and better playwright that is the playwright that we know William Shakespeare to be. That he actually falters and he does make bad plays and all this stuff, and that he needs to work on it, and you watch him work through building up his courage and skill. I'm just so excited that they are doing that and that they are going to show that he wasn't just this major success that we all know him to be. And then sort of the main players introduction in this episode of all the different people that are going to be there to interact with Will as he grows through this progression. I really enjoyed what they've done with them so far, and every single one of them has been portrayed really, really well, and they're each very interesting characters that I kind of can't wait to see what else is going to happen to each of them. And then I did really enjoy the parts with Will learning about actors and how actors can be very hard to work with because they don't always care to follow the script, and they just care to make people laugh, or they don't do what the director or playwright wants them to do. And just watching Will realize that and trying to figure out how to work with that was very interesting to see, and I really kind of like that they did have that in there. And then all the moments with Topcliffe and him going and hunting down these Catholics and interrogating them and doing all that stuff was very interesting and a little creepy, but also possibly very accurate, because no one really knows what actually happened. But there are plenty of stories saying that they did do some torture stuff to people, and that maybe a lot of these investigators and stuff took it a bit too far, a lot of people say. But all that's really known is that the Catholics were captured and sort of taken away, and eventually showed up dead or massively broken. So it's very interesting with what they're doing with that whole take and all that stuff. And then the ending of this episode was really great and interesting with this other playwright sort of coming in and watching Will's production and his play and stuff. And instead of turning Will in, he did something else to sort of protect Will. And that was interesting to see that because this other playwright saw the greatness of what Will could become, he decided to save his life. And I'm very interested to see how that whole relationship between the two of them might turn out. And just overall, this was a really interesting and really great episode that makes me really curious to see where they're going to continue on with this story, and how eventually they're going to introduce sort of all the different iconic elements to Will. And I'm just so excited to see what they're going to do next. So, yeah, that's my first review of the TNT series Will, and its first episode called The Play's the Thing. And so, yeah. Bye!